So ParadoxCon is happening this weekend, and today they announced a new title from Paradox Development Studios, Imperator Rome. This game's set about 450 years after Rome was founded, or 300 BC. There's going to be around 7,000 cities in the game, which is equivalent to a province in EU4, and for perspective, EU4 only has about 4,300 provinces. During the announcement, Johan also made note that there's going to be specialized units like chariots and war elephants. So let's go over the main features that are on the store page first, and then we'll go into screenshots and analysis after that. Character management, a living world of characters with varying skills and traits that will change over time. They will lead your nation, govern your provinces, and command your armies and fleets. We also introduce our new, more human-like character art. It's unlikely that you're going to be playing characters like in CK2, from what I'm reading here. More likely, you're going to be playing the state, as in, EU4 or Stellaris, and then you'll manage governors and other characters, as they put them, in the game as generals or governors and whatnot. It'd be great to see an experience system like older RPGs like, say, Oblivion, where, making a character do something in particular makes them better at that thing, along with natural traits developing on their own or whatever, but we'll see how it all shakes out. For now, it sounds good. It's nothing revolutionary, I would say, since we do have games like Stellaris, but we'll see. It could be really cool. Diverse populations. Citizens, freemen, tribesmen, and slaves. Each population has its own culture and religion. Whether they fill your armies, fill your coffers, or fill your colonies, keep an eye on their happiness. Your success depends on their satisfaction. Ever since Victoria 2, population in Paradox games has been abstracted to the point that's left a lot of players unsatisfied. If you're one of those unhappy players, don't get your hopes up. Johan Anderson has confirmed he's the game director, and likely a part of the design team as well, which means we can expect a pop system very similar to recent Paradox titles. Battle tactics. Choose your approach before battle to counter the stratagems of your foes. The description we're given is pretty vague on this, so it's a lot of speculation as to what exactly this is going to mean, but we do get a little bit of a glimpse of the system in screenshots that have been released. It seems like you're going to choose a strategy before battle, and it'll provide buffs or debuffs depending on what kind of units you have and, what kind of units you're up against and what their strategies are going to be. Hopefully we'll get more on this system tomorrow because I'm pretty interested in how it's going to work. Military traditions. Each culture has its own unique way of waging war. Romans and Celts have different options available to them. Unlock unique bonuses, abilities, and units. This looks kind of similar to national ideas in EU4, where you're going to get different bonuses depending on who you are. But it's more interesting because you'll probably get, different tactics. You'll be able to influence battles in a more direct way rather than just static combat bonuses. Hopefully this will manifest in things like Scandinavians being able to use hit-and-run raids, while Greeks hold territory with strong phalanxes and, all that kind of stuff, but it's all speculation as of right now. Different government forms. Manage the Senate in a republic, hold your court together in a monarchy, answer to the clans in a tribal system. At the top level, I kind of see this manifesting like the government forms in EU4, but there's a lot of room for nuances that can really differentiate, from government in other Paradox titles. Tribal leaders could manifest into great leaders for your country, or senators could play their own role in intrigue, threatening your national stability and things like that. There's a lot of potential here that'll hopefully be met, but we'll have to see. Barbarians and rebellions. Migrating barbarians may sack and settle your best land, while disloyal governors or generals can turn against you, taking their armies with them. So there's no real mention of where these barbarians are coming from or how they're going to spawn. Are they going to come from uncolonized lands, tribal territories? How far can they go into civilized territory? There's just a lot of questions I have about them. I'm sure that there's going to be some inspiration from, Civ's barbarians since they've been around forever, but we're really going to have to see what Paradox decides to do with these guys. At the very least, watching barbarians sack your enemies after a Punic War would be really fun, so I'm still excited to see what's going to come out of this. As for rebellions, they're going to take their armies with them, which gives an indication that you're going to have some sort of force system similar to CK2, where you have subjects that contribute force to your army. It's pretty unclear how that's going to work. I doubt it's going to be the same as CK2 exactly, but you can expect something similar. The other neat thing about it is that you can kind of see how this is going to work in with characters and, your government forms, and all of those things are going to kind of mesh together to create these events like rebellions. Trade. Goods provide bonuses to their home province. Will you take advantage of stockpiles for local strength or trade excess goods to spread the wealth around? So again, this is pretty vague, but we can at least take a couple pieces of info out of it. First of all, your provinces are going to produce goods similar to something like in EU4. Probably cities are going to actually produce them and then send them to the province level, and then you can decide on what you're going to do with them exactly. It sounds like you're going to have a choice as to whether you want to use those goods to improve the province in some way, maybe that's development or population growth or something like that, or you can decide to trade those away to make more money as a result. There's a little bit more about trade that we can talk about in the screenshot section, but we'll get to that later. Provincial improvement. Invest in buildings, roads, and defenses to make your kingdom stronger and richer. So just like any other Paradox game, you can build stuff to make your nation stronger, fortify specific provinces and stuff like that. Nothing new, nothing special, but still good to have. Now that we've got the main features of the game out of the way, we can talk about the screenshots and interesting things like what we can analyze out of them. Starting with the main UI, the header has some interesting things to look at. Top left, you have your nation's flag like any other Paradox game, which will likely bring you to some sort of overview. The first row seems to show money, manpower, stability, but then you have something unknown. At first, this struck me as some form of political capital, since it was a hand grabbing a crown, but considering the Roman theme and placement, I think it might very well be corruption or some sort of tyranny counter as well. All the screenshots provided show the ticker at 0, so we'll have to wait until we have some more context to get any actual answers. Further right, we have Helmet, Olive Branch, and Scroll Mana. Any seasoned Paradox players should have a good idea of what these do by now, so expect to be spending these just about everywhere in the UI to manage and improve your nations. The last counter, however, is a bit different. Many people are speculating this is some sort of religious mana, which means that religion won't work like you would see in other Paradox games. Looking at the counter in the screenshots, you can see it seems to gain at the same rate as the other mana. This makes me believe it's used for more things or possibly a completely new religious system requiring a lot more of it. Next in the header, we have 9 buttons with Roman icons. Since all the screenshots provided are from Central Italian nations, it makes sense that these would be Roman and Hellenic in design. Hopefully we'll see more different designs for different cultures and religions, but Rome is on the box, so probably not. Maybe with DLC, we'll see. From left to right, we have what looks like characters, government, military, production, religion, trade, diplomacy, intrigue, and culture. I think characters may also have something to do with dynastic or political management. Trade may also have something to do with the treasury or something like that. Intrigue is a bit of a stretch with culture. I mean, they're just icons, so we don't know for sure. They may also have to do with estate or subject management based on the icons. It's really hard to say. The last bit to talk about in the header is the inclusion of Speed 5, which is great. My biggest gripe with Stellaris is the fact that you can only go to Speed 3, which makes the game slow and dull at times, and this is good because we can actually just kind of power through the boring bits of the game. Looking at the large map, where we're zoomed out a little bit, we have some interesting stuff to talk about. Glaringly, you'll first notice the density of nations. We're looking at about 1/6 of the map, so this means there are going to be a daunting amount of nations to start as. The other big eye catcher is the large amount of empty land. Initially, I was worried about mass swaths of wasteland, but under the main features, there's the line, fill your colonies. I think colonization is going to be a huge part of this game and developing interior barbaric portions of land. This is further reinforced by 2 more things on the map, the different colored edges of the map, and the outlines of uncontrolled territory in the east of Europe and also in the Iberian Peninsula. There are even interesting areas where only portions of the land are filled in with color. I'm assuming that this means some sort of terra incognita where you understand that the nation exists there, but you don't know exactly where those cities are or something like that. The minimap gives us some contextual clues as well, since we know a bit about how Paradox likes to design them. First, we have what appears to be map modes at the top of the minimap. To me, it looks like a detailed terrain, a simple terrain, political, cultural, religious, areas and or states, I'm not entirely sure, production, population, and diplomatic. Then there's the minimap itself, with a search and home button in it. Looking at the minimap, you can see the extent of the game's map. The bottom tip of Finland to the Ethiopian Horn, Agadir in North Africa to Myanmar in the east. Excluding China and Mongolia means there's probably not going to be much in the way of Eastern influence in the game, but again, Rome is on the box, so it makes sense to not focus on powers that haven't fully developed in the east anyways. Now looking at the provincial interface, we have some more stuff to decipher. Again, looking at the top left, you have what appears to be a governor, but what could also be a representation of the majority of race and or culture. To the right, we get produced goods. All the way to the left, we have what appears to be a button to establish trade routes. How to raise the trade route cap will be interesting to see, and I really want to know whether trade will be organic and flexible or more static like you're used to in EU4. Below the fold on the left, we have what looks like the provincial cities, along with the city's population and goods produced. We can't see the whole list of cities, but it looks like provincial production is tied to what the most pops are producing. There's a lot of room for more trade goods though, so it could also be that you will have more direct control over production, or perhaps just increase the provincial trade goods cap. Left of the divider, we have the individual city selected. On the left side of the city interface, we see the trade goods produced and terrain on top. Below it, there are 4 icons with numerical values. The top icon looks like some sort of urbanization value, similar to Mayo and taxes or EU Rome. If you guys have any ideas, I'd like to hear them because I'm not entirely sure about this one. The second one down looks like it could have to do with military or maybe some sort of devastation, since the weaponry looks a little more barbaric than what you would see with Rome. One level down and we see fortification level, which is pretty self-explanatory, and below that we see what looks like a garrison. To the right of all this, we have city pops and buildings, a building limit on the top left, with what looks like citizens, freemen, tribesmen, and slave pops below. There's a green plus next to the freeman, probably indicating some sort of pop buff, likely growth, migration attraction, or some production bonus. Left of the pops are buildings that can be built, with what looks like roads, a garrison, walls, a market, and some kind of storehouse to me. I'm not sure. Again, if you guys have good ideas, let me know. I'd love to hear somebody smarter than me tell me what the hell it is. The fact that the walls are already built in this province and it still has a plus button on the right makes me believe that there's going to be multiple levels to buildings, just like many other Paradox games. Dropping down to the bottom right section of the menu, we see culture and religion displayed, as well as a way to build units on the left. On the right, we see city income, manpower, what I think is administrative maintenance cost, and unrest. I'm not really sure about the bottom left. It could be some sort of income for the city, but the icon looks like a letter of some sort to me, which makes me lean towards an administrative upkeep value. If you got a better idea, again, let me know. Moving on to the combat screenshot, we have all sorts of things to discuss. Clearly, there's a leader in charge of the army, shown in the top left. Right of him is a green bar, which most likely indicates morale. Right of that are a ton of buttons, and not all of them look like tactics to me. The top row looks like army management to me, with reinforce, group, detach siege, split, detailed split, and cancel. Then in the middle, I see fortification, money, a torch, and road icons, which makes me believe that this is more army behavior in general. This would make the Broken Sun some sort of destroy religious idols if I had to guess, but I still have no clue, and again, this is where I'd love to hear more ideas. Then on the bottom row, I think we have what is battle tactics, but again, I could be wrong. There are icons that I really don't have any idea what they mean, such as the maze or the exclamation mark. And to the right of all this, we have 2 buttons that could also be tactics. On the top, javelins, and on the bottom, a phalanx. These are probably prioritizing different types of engagement, one being more of a long-range thing and one being a up-close and personal. There are so many icons, it's really just impossible to say what's going on here. This is all just my best interpretation. Under all of that, we have troop count, what looks like attrition, and maybe deaths from battle. I'm not entirely sure as to what that is. 5 is very low for a deaths from battle, but it might be that the battle just started. There are also troop type counts with what looks like archers, heavy cav, heavy infantry, light cav, and light infantry. The amount of troop types is interesting because they'll likely play heavily into the tactics used in battles. Under that, we see units with troop counts and what looks like empty morale bars, or possibly a fear bar that routes units when full. The unit flags on the map also have a bar below them, possibly showing morale or battle progression. It looks like the SPQR's army flag is being overlapped a bit by the enemy unit, so I think there might actually be another bar under there as well, but it's hard to say. Last thing besides the awesome unit models is the yellow flag with a 6 on it. It doesn't really line up with anything else on the screen, so I'm thinking it's either like a general level indicator or maybe some sort of army strength count. It's hard to say, and there's a lot of possibilities, but we'll just have to see in the future. The other interesting thing to note here is the mountain in the background that looks impassable. The other Rome shot also shows more mountains that are impassable along with this one. When looking at the placement of them along with the city bounds, it becomes clear that the army units will move from city to city rather than from province to province like in EU4 or CK2. And my last note is the game is listed as single player on the Paradox Plaza store page, but the Steam page says multiplayer as well. So I'm pretty sure it's just a data entry error, especially since it looks a lot like another Clausewitz engine game. That's all I have for now. Hopefully tomorrow ParadoxCon is going to have some more information about the game. It sounds like they're going to do another talk. Maybe it'll be private, maybe it won't, but we'll see. For now, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If we get some more information, I'll probably put out another video tomorrow. And thanks for watching. Feel free to check out all the links in the description. I'll probably put a Discord link and all that stuff if you want to talk some more about this. And I'll see you all later.